Lee Camp.
Hey, man, how's it going?
I'm so excited to be doing Government Secrets, episode 38.
The Arnold Palmer episode.
It's the Arnold Palmer. We're going to learn that, he was a CIA operative and he killed somebody or something like that. All of his golf courses just have bodies underneath them that he's designed. Like, wouldn't that be great if that's who Arnold Palmer was?
I love the description that we are a nice, refreshing Arnold Palmer on a hot day. But then you walk away thinking our country is a horrifying place to be.
Isn't that how you feel when you drink an Arnold Palmer? Like, oh God, lemonade and iced tea tastes great, but what a nightmare.
But how many indigenous did they have to kill to make this drink?
Exactly. Lemons grown on stolen land. Oh, great. Perfect. How are you doing, Lee Camp?
Not bad. Hanging in there. Did you enjoy the day where all the corporations tell you how wonderful the environment is as they destroy the environment? Because I thought it was great. I'm pretty sure McDonald's puts like a little sapling or something in each cow anus patty they deliver.
Yeah, it's like, it's so great to watch. I mean, who was on that call yesterday? Bill Gates and Michael Bloomberg.
What call?
Well, there was the big call to action climate thing. Biden was on, and they had like the president or the premier of China or whatever, and they're talking about it. And then it's like Bill Gates and Michael Bloomberg also spoke. Who's asking those horrific jackasses to speak at an Earth Day thing? But it's just like, you're right. It's like, oh, it's National Greenwashing Day. Like,
yeah, we want to save the planet, but also nobody discussed capitalism. Nobody discussed consumerism. Nobody discussed the military-industrial complex, the largest polluter as an organization in the world. Nobody discussed any of those things, but we're going to save the planet.
Yay! And some big awful corporation is going to spend $5 million, which is like 1% of its annual revenue or something like that, on green initiatives. Oh, what are those? Just putting leaf stickers on some bottle of bullshit or whatever. Like, more natural resources used. We're going to use 20% less plundering of the earth to make some dumb tech product you don't need.
Yeah. And, it's like all of the scientific studies show we have to stop all fossil fuel use today. So we are putting forward a plan to have our fossil fuel use cut in half by 2050.
I know. It's
like you act like you care about science, but they're like, so because we care about science, we'll put forward this plan that won't save us at all.
Well, and you see too, the long con of why the ruling elites actually they loved having Donald Trump in there, because he was so just like, yeah, we're going to drill everything, open up historic landmarks and turn them into malls or whatever.
Climate change isn't real.
I'm nuts. Yeah. So now, the boutique left, the vote any blue will do crowd can go back to brunch knowing that Joe Biden is going to use his incremental centrism to delay our death by about 10, 15 years.
Yeah. If the planet is a house on fire, do you think you'd see like a fire hose that says incremental centrism written on it? Like, it's like a little dribble. There's a little drip coming out of the end of the fire hose.
Yeah. But no, so the vote any blue will do crowd go, well, Trump was throwing gasoline on it, so this is better than Trump. I get, but we're still going to die on the fire, right? Like, we're all dying. The house is going to murder all of us. Oh, great.
Yeah. The way I described it, I think a while back, was it's like you have the two options between the Democrats and Republicans are a car, two cars flying towards the edge of a cliff, just like fucking pedal to the metal, 100 miles per hour. They got one, half a mile left before the edge of the cliff. just flying towards it. And the Republicans are like, let's drive straight at it. And the Democrats are like, let's drive 3 degrees this way. It's like, it's not stopping it at all. It's just, and then people go, well, 3 degrees that way is better than driving straight at it, right?
Better than, that's not, dying slowly is better than getting your brains blown out. But they're still dying. Yeah, it's all this. I remember saying this during the primary, listening to Joe Biden's, he said we need a middle ground on climate policy. And it was like, it's all this bullshit. Oh, we're back on the Paris Accord and cutting emissions by 2050. Like, that's not, it's too late. This policy, Joe Biden's climate policy, would have been amazing in 1982. Like, that would be
dude, and through the 80s or 90s, the Republicans were doing speeches like, Al Gore wants to save a bird.
Yeah.
Like, and look, Al Gore's a monster, but it is true that he was trying to talk about the environment more than others.
Yeah. It was like, and and meanwhile, like, SpaceX has a new rocket. And you're just like, oh, so the billionaires plan for climate change. They're just going to fly on out of here while we're down here just killing each other over a can of, drinkable water that we found in a rotted out atomic waste dump.
Yeah, the Ted Cruz flight to Cancun was the test trip. That was the sampler of the escape plan.
It's like, so on the news yesterday, I was like, oh, look at these spacesuits that all these billionaire assholes are going to wear while we're down here just fucking eating each other. Oh, look at, they made these. Thanks, Elon Musk.
Well, yeah, and I saw another article that was like, Elon Musk is how he decided to give so much away to charity. And it was like, he gave $10 million. And I'm like, but as a percentage of his wealth, that's like me giving $5.
Yes. Over the course of a year. So that's like a nickel, like at once a week or whatever, you throw in some can of some homeless guy and go, I'm doing my part. And we're all supposed to go, wow, what a hero. Like, billionaire who could end homelessness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what fun Arnold Palmer drinks do we want to talk about today, Lee?
Oh man, we got some good ones. We're going to cover that time when when Philadelphia bombed itself. So I thought that would be a good one.
But I thought only repressive regimes did that to their people. I didn't think freedom did that to freedom.
Yeah. Well, it was an accident. We pushed the wrong button or something. There was a drunk guy who had a few too many, and just
look. I had 2 duffel bags in the helicopter. One was like, water and treats, and the other one was
candy and teddy bears.
Candy and teddy bears. And I was like, I was going to throw the candy and teddy bears one out to the move people, and they had some walking around money. And the other one was, I was moving from my brother's place, and I just happened to grab his bag of dynamite, and I just I was supposed to put that in the. I have a storage container, and I put it in the helicopter, and I got mixed up, and then the door opened. I was like, boinks, and it fell out, and it was windy.
And my wife had said, are you sure you want to have all the same duffel bags look identical? And I was like, sure, why not? What problem could that cause?
Honey, can you buy 5 exactly identical duffel bags and put wildly different things in them? One of them could be potentially dangerous.
Yeah. So shall we start that one?
Let's do the move.
All right. So, folks, for those of you who don't know, this is one of the few times that America has bombed America in America. I know that we recently discussed a time, and I was a little confused as to whether it was the only time that America had bombed itself, because I remembered that there was also the move bombing. This was in West Virginia. I think the difference is that the MOVE bombing is the city of Philadelphia bombing its own citizens. What happened in West Virginia during the mine wars was, I think, the only case of the American military, because it was the Air Force or National Guard or something, American military bombing our own citizens in America. We've bombed our own citizens plenty overseas, but in America, I think that was the only U.S. military time. This is perhaps the only like city bombing itself. But yeah, this story got Philadelphia the nickname to some, the city that bombed itself. So
now which one do you now? Did that usurp the city of brotherly love?
Well, you use them, you use them interchangeably, really. Yeah.
The city of brotherly love that likes to bomb itself and cheesesteaks.
Yeah, and also cheesesteaks. I had the duffel bag of cheesesteaks right next to it.
I was going to throw tasty cakes out the window and Eagles jerseys, but instead it was dynamite. And I had my wife's prescriptions. I grabbed her glasses look like mine and I grabbed the wrong ones. And that's why I threw dynamite instead of tasty cakes.
Philadelphia also one of the only cities to throw batteries at Santa Claus when he walked out during the NFL game. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. That's the city that bombs itself. Is definitely going to chuck batteries at Santa Claus.
Okay, so I got to give some of the background to understand how we end up in this place that they bombed their own citizens in 1985 or 6, I think 86. The era in which MOVE was born, and by the way, I know this is funny, but I was looking for the best kind of history of the MOVE bombing, and that was easily accessible online. I realized there's great books written about it, but I wanted a shorter article. And the best one I found that seemed pretty fair was Teen Vogue, because for some odd reason, Teen Vogue does fairly revolutionary articles. Like, have you ever noticed that? They started like a few years ago, like actual great anti-capitalism articles and shit.
How do they? Is it so much like they're like, there's some journalist got a job there. It's the only place they could get a job. And they're like, and they're just going to float these through. And the editor's like, yeah, whatever. No one's like the ruling elites or whatever. The corporate aristocracy is not going to hold Teen Vogue responsible. So they're just going to let them.
I think when you're looking for clickbait, they're like, everybody's covered all the like, let's go towards fascism articles. What if we went the other way? There's probably some room for clicks there. Yeah,
it's a weird place. It's like when you used to see like a really hard hitting political commentary and like Playboy, you'd be like,
yeah. Playboy used to do it. There were a few outlets like that where you were like, I didn't expect to get this from them, but okay. But anyway, so to understand the background going on, so the era when MOVE was born was an especially dangerous time for activists and organizers. You had COINTELPRO had kind of just been exposed, the FBI surveillance program that we've talked about plenty, that ended in multiple things against the Black Panthers, including the execution of Fred Hampton, which we've covered on this show. Everybody should go back and listen to previous episodes so that you have your fucking head on straight.
You'll never get an Arnold Palmer if you don't fucking watch past episodes.
So MOVE was founded in 1972 by Vincent Leopart, a Korean War veteran who took the name John Africa to demonstrate his reverence to the country. The group's politics were, and stop me if this sounds like something that our state government, our corporate government might not be a fan of. The group's politics were anti-capitalist, anti-government, anti-modern technology, anti-police, and communal. Like... It's like everything that our government wants to crush.
People helping each other out. They always got to put their boot on that neck. They just got to boom.
Yeah, I mean, they were busy trying to crush every socialist movement, every anti-capitalist movement, they were also animal like liberation. So they were busy trying to crush all those things. And they were like, wait, there's one group that has all of these things. Black power. Oh, Jesus. So yeah, you can imagine that they dealt with a lot of shit. So MOVE members considered themselves a family. They were involved in animal rights. They embraced a raw food diet, natural home birth, homeschooling, composting. They lived communally in West Philadelphia. It was in a row home. And they had regular public demonstrations against war, racism, and police brutality. So their ideologies were initially peaceful from all accounts. MOVE's members, the article says, weren't exactly ideal neighbors. And it goes to talk about how the neighbors put in all these complaints about how, there's raucous protests going on all the time. And the multiple articles I read had this line: blasting quote unquote profanity-laced political diatribes from loudspeakers at all hours. And I always love the term profanity-laced. Like, if something's got the word fuck in it, then it kills children and sets fire to schools because the word fuck was uttered. Whenever the status quo wants to attack an activist group or a group trying to change things, it's profanity laced.
Oh, and that's always say that, like, that's the worst thing that's ever happened. It's not our bombing, our imperialism, our shooting of unarmed people. It's just what they said the F word. I mean, that's, letting people die in the street because capitalism is cruel. Hey, thoughts and prayers, but the F word, wow, that is just, I can't hear it.
Right. And I would imagine if you were a black liberation group in the 1970s, the shit you'd seen, I mean, not to mention today, but, even, especially then, the shit you'd see, you probably wanted to say things like fuck the police every once in a while.
Once in a while, when you saw just them abandon the Constitution and democracy to do whatever they wanted, I might, the word motherfuckers might pop into my mind.
might pop out a couple of times. Yeah, you'd only gotten the vote a few years earlier, and you'd only been freed from slavery less than 100 years ago. And it's like, they're using foul language.
Yeah. Your grandparents or great grandparents were slaves. They literally were owned by another human being. I might say cocksucker once or twice in my day.
Fucking twat liquor might have been yelled a few times.
So maybe a suck my dick got bandied about when I thought about how I'd been completely mistreated because of the color of my skin. That might have just.
So I think that most people could understand that after following years of targeted police brutality against the MOVE members, police constantly pestering them, same with neighbors, etc., they became increasily militant. In terms of like having weapons on the grounds, the New York Times, although who knows whether they have their heads up their asses, but they claimed they were stockpiling weapons. But I think, these people have been harassed and attacked so much by the police that they were like, we're going to protect ourselves. It was similar with the Black Panthers. It was like, listen, we live in a country that terrorizes us on a daily basis and our community. We're going to start having people walk around with, open carry guns, and we're going to show that we're protecting ourselves. And that's funny. That was about the time Reagan decided he didn't like the open carry thing anymore.
Yeah, it was weird. Reagan was all about everyone should have a gun until the Black Panthers showed up when he was governor, and they showed up into the Capitol building in Sacramento. That's suddenly when he changed his tune about that in California. It's weird. It's weird how that
I don't know what that was. Yeah, I don't know what caused him to change his views.
What a wacky coincidence.
So, and then at the same time, you had the mayor, whose name was Frank Rizzo, which I think, wasn't that the fake name that the Jerky Boys used to use? I always thought, weren't they always Frank Rizzo? Anyway.
It might have been.
Apparently, this is a real person. Mayor Frank Rizzo was just an awful racist douchebag. He would say, yeah, what are the odds? He would say in the press that these people, meaning the MOVE members, represent nobody but themselves. They're complete idiots. He called them absolute imbeciles, psychotics, and not even human beings. Where have we heard the not even human beings used against other races before? So this is in the 1970s, 1977, I think, or 78. But after 15, so this is not the main event. This is what leads to it. After the 15-month standoff, police attempted to storm the house and a firefight erupted. An officer was fatally shot in the back of the head, which during trial, the MOVE members made a strong case that it was friendly fire because the guy was facing the house and shot in the back of the head. But of course, they didn't exactly get a fair trial. And
democracy they didn't get a fair trial. Weird.
What are the odds? And several of them were locked up for decades. We'll come back to that in a bit. I think 9 of them or something. The MOVE 9. So 9 of them were locked up for decades. But so despite the fact that 9 MOVE members were given a sentence of 30 to 100 years in prison for third-degree murder. So the group that was not in prison, the rest of them, remained active. They moved to a new location in Philadelphia and continued to broadcast their views on law enforcement in the state through loudspeakers like they had, continued to have anti-war protests, etc. Clashes with the neighbors and law enforcement continued. And then in May 1985, following a year of surveillance, police obtained arrest warrants for 4 of the house's occupants. After evacuating the surrounding neighborhood, meaning the cops knew what they were getting ready to do because they evacuated the neighborhood, nearly 500 cops showed up on May 13th, 1985 or 6. I don't see the year here. But so 500 cops show up on May 13th to serve warrants and attempt to clear the building using water cannons and tear gas. A gun battle broke out between authorities and those inside, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. The fire department blasted the house with 1,000 gallons of water a minute for 6 hours. And those water cannons, most people know this. They're used for crowd control, or they used to be, because they can take your head off. I mean, it's not like getting hit by a squirt gun. Police threw smoke grenades and fired at least. I'm gonna give you the game show back at you, Graham. How many rounds of ammunition do you think they fired at the house?
Well, Lee, I want to say Philadelphia PD fired a minimum of 10,000 rounds of ammo against the house.
Damn it. You got the exact number.
I know my fascist police force. I know how they like to roll.
10,000 rounds fired at the house. Okay. Hours later, Police Chief Sambor gave the order for two explosives. These are the duffel bags that we made up. That 2 explosives be dropped above the residential neighborhood from a helicopter onto a structure on the roof of the house. The explosion ignited several barrels of gasoline that had been stored there, kickstarted a fire that ultimately consumed the entire block, burned down the entire fucking block. Sambor reportedly told firefighters to stand down and let the fire burn. So that's the famous line that I think there might even be a documentary or movie titled that, called Let It Burn. All the while, police continued to pepper the MOVE house with gunfire. So it's basically burning down around them. And every time they try and, I'll read the quote. This is from Ramona, Africa, who, by the way, all the members had changed their last name to Africa. So they're all something Africa. Mm-hmm. Ramona, Africa, who was one of the only survivors, I think she and her brother are the only survivors that were in there when it started burning. She said, quote, "When we realized that our house was actually on fire, we immediately tried to get our children, our animals, and ourselves out of the blazing inferno. But at the point when we were trying to come out and could be seen, the cops opened fire on us, forcing us back in. We tried several times to get out, but each time we were shot back into the house. This was a clear indication that they didn't intend for any of us to survive the attack." She pulled her brother along with her, somehow managed to get out of the house, and was then arrested. The rest of the house's occupants, 6 adults and 5 children, burned to death. The city was left reeling. There were more than 60 homes destroyed in the fire. 250 people were left homeless. Homegrown black radicals had been decimated, their children killed, the sole survivors vilified, convicted of conspiracy and riot charges. And even the neighbors who had been complaining about them said, we complained about them a lot, but we didn't want you to bomb and murder them. So even the other people in Philadelphia who, had been calling the cops were like, what in the fuck? There were several special investigation commissions, but despite a highly critical report that found that dropping a bomb on an occupied row house was unconscionable, there were no criminal charges ever filed against the cops. So despite the fact that there was investigations that were like, yeah, they totally shouldn't have done this, this is totally fucked up, nobody was ever held to account. Move did eventually get some justice in 1996 when a federal court ordered the city to pay $1.5 million to Ramona Africa and the relatives of John and Frank Africa, finding the city that had used excessive force and violated the members' constitutional protections. Yeah, slightly. Ramona was awarded $500,000. In May 13th, 2020, so this past year, on the 35th anniversary of the bombing, 11 Philadelphia city council members issued a formal apology for what they called a brutal attack carried out by the city of Philadelphia on its own citizens. They apologized. Thank goodness.
All better. All better.
Yeah, and then the final update is that all of the surviving Move 9 have been freed from prison after being repeatedly denied parole. So they were up for parole in 2008, and they kept being denied parole, kept in prison, basically for being attacked by the police. They were just endlessly kept in prison. 2 members died while in prison. Debbie Africa, the first to be freed, was released in June 2018 after serving 38 years. Chuck Africa, the last to be released, walked out in February 2020, this past year. And Move is still active. You can still find stuff by them online. The one member that people kind of associate with Move, although he wasn't, I don't think he ever lived in the house or anything, is that's still in prison, is Mumia Abu-Jamal, who is, well known. We could probably do a segment on him sometime. He's been on death row for decades, and he was also a powerful black spokesperson around the same time, arrested for killing a cop that he says he was not involved in at all, and it seems likely to have just be like, hey, a cop was killed, let's go get the guy we hated anyway. So he's still in prison, and he actually just, I think last week or something, underwent a very serious surgery. So everyone's pulling for him, and the Move 9 talk about, or the remaining Move 9 talk about Mumia a lot. So,
I mean, basically this is like one of the last, if you look starting from the 60s, with, Malcolm X and MLK and Bobby Seale. They've just killed or jailed all of the black leaders.
As Cornel West calls them, the black prophetic class, which was largely just destroyed in one form or another.
Yeah. This is what they were like. We can't let them. We talked about Fred Hampton. We could go on down the line, and the Move group was like, oh, the last of them, because this was what?
Fred Hampton, Huey P. Newton, MLK, Malcolm X, Mumia Abu-Jamal. Yeah, you can go down the list, and they all had their lives destroyed or arrested, or you can destroy a person's life in a lot of ways. It's not just arrest or killing, but
yeah. But they sure did like killing. Yeah, they did a lot.
They did like killing, yeah, and in this case, actually bombing, literally a house in Philadelphia. And a lot, I had heard, because it's not like I studied this stuff like in college or anything. So my education on, all of the stories we've been talking about so long on this podcast, it has come, in various reading, various things. And so I'd heard a bunch of people mention the, move and the Move 9 and the bombing. But I never really, until the past few years, never really like looked up the details and kind of thought, oh, well, they must be exaggerating. The police wouldn't bomb a group of citizens in the United States.
No.
It must have been like they got the duffel bags confused or something.
It had to have been. It had to have been. He thought he was throwing out tasty cakes. It had to have been that. There's no other way. He's like, these are the this is going to be for like our t-shirt cannon at a Sixers game. And, oh, whoops. Oh, it was bombs. No, not that one. Oh,
that's why their mascot is the Philly Fanatic. He's always screwing up his bombs and his t-shirts. And
it's like they put that guy in charge of the duffel bags. Like, oh, zoinks. Not again. Philly Fanatic, boy.
But yeah, this is yet another case where it's like, that couldn't possibly be true. And then you look it up and it's like, not only is it true, but the fucking city has now apologized for it, meaning they're not calling it a conspiracy theory. They're saying, yeah, whoops, sorry we bombed those people. Sorry we killed children because we were upset that these people wouldn't come out of their home and let us arrest them for trumped up charges. Like, I mean, it is amazing that every time you think this shit can't be true, it is very, very true.
Very true. It is very true. And the fact that the city owned it. So now, like you said, no one can say, well, there's two sides that. No, there's not. The city, the apologies and the getting the people out of prison. Okay, that's nice. At least they owned it. How come no cops or firefighters or police chiefs or fire chiefs who implemented these murderous plans?
Yeah.
Are they in jail? Or do they get to go to jail?
No, I don't think they get to have that experience.
Oh, they don't get to have that experience. They should have a diversity of experiences in their wonderful life.
Yeah. We talk about this again and again, how the powerful in our socioeconomic system, whether it be cops or CEOs or judges or whatever, when they violate the law, when they, kill tens of thousands of people like the Sacklers have with the opioid epidemic, none of them go to prison really. You have this, rare exception where once every 30 years where you go, what about Bernie Madoff or something? But in general, none of these people ever see any prison time because even when they're caught, even when they're prosecuted, they are still the ruling elite. They still own the systems, and the system is not going to put one of its own behind bars. This is an oligarchy. It's an entrenched ruling class that own each of the structures that would give quote unquote justice, dispense justice. And so it's like the best you'll get is like, oh, well, they had to pay $1 billion fine. Yeah. Well, are they still incredibly rich? Oh, they are. Okay. And they're free. Okay. Well, and Bernie Madoff,
the only reason he went to prison basically is because he gave himself up. I mean, and they really
stole from the rich.
He stole from the rich. Well, that's part of it too. He stole from the rich. So they were like, whoa, you don't get to do that. If you steal from working class people, we're totally fine with that. If you ruin people's lives and force them to commit suicide or become drug addicts, no problem. But you stole from people in the Hamptons. How dare you, Bernie? So he just died in prison last week. And, good for him. He's in hell now.
In a way, you kind of got to feel bad for him because what he was doing is actually how the entirety of the stock market works. He just did it. He just did it more boldly in a way that can collapse very easily and lose all of the rich people's money. Whereas all of the rest of the stock market, which is literally lying to people so that you can keep a Ponzi scheme going, that's all fine.
Well, the other thing too, I mean, he was in jail when the housing crash hit, and he said, what these guys did on Wall Street, they're just doing, that's what I did. They're doing the same thing, but they're not held accountable.
Yeah.
He was like, why am I in jail? I mean, if I'm in jail, fine. I know I committed these crimes. They should be in jail too. None of them. I mean, Obama locked them all up. Oh, no, wait. I'm thinking of Iceland.
Yeah, yeah. I always confuse Obama and Iceland. They look very
Yeah.
similar, you know. They've kind of cold face. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, to shrink this down to a understanding that is way too simplified, way too reductive. It's exactly the same, because the banks, not only did they lie to get people to sign the predatory lending and all that shit, but they lied. They put these loans that they knew were on the cusp of collapsing, because these are relatively poor people who there's no way they can afford these things. They put them into tranches, into boxes, and said, oh, well, if you put all those shitty loans that are totally going to fail into a box and it's together, then you can market prime fucking, lending where people can then bet on it, because we can market, which is lying. There's no other way to call it. It is lying to investors to say, yeah, bet on these loans because they're whatever, AAA or whatever. They're great loans. It's like, why? Because you put them in a box and marked them great loans? Like, how is that not exactly what Bernie Madoff was doing? Just lying to people in order to keep the money coming in.
Yeah. It's like a meal deal at McDonald's. You just put all this crappy food together and
slap a smiley face on it.
Slap a smiley face and go, you save 60 cents if you if you get it all together, and then you can supersize it and everyone, oh, what a great deal. Yeah. I don't understand when I have diabetes. So it's really, it's really great that we live in the best country in the world, Lee.
It is the best country in the world, and as we're going to get into story number 2 here, we make other countries not the best countries in the world, because they got to be second to us, but we make all the other countries second best to us, which is nice of us.
It's the best that what we do. So when I was looking for a story to talk about today, first I just typed in, and this will be for a later episode.
I love every week you tell us your like dart thrown at the dartboard, seeking of stories.
Government secret roulette. That's what I call it. Segment 2. Beep, beep, beep. Graham typed in. First thing I typed in, I just went.
So I let my cat fart on my keyboard, and that turned up CIA Operation Mongoose.
I literally just let a cat walk across my keyboard, and there's how I found it. And it's literally just like meow, meow, meow. And then, hey, I typed in toxic waste cover up, and I thought, what's a good location? I just went Texas, and all these came up for Texas. Fantastic. And the most recent one is in Dallas, and there's like of course it's in a neighborhood of color, a poor neighborhood. We'll just dump it there. But I was like, oh man. So then I thought, there's so many in Texas, like literally the whole state has toxic dump cover up, the whole state. And I was like, wow, that's a whole nother episode. So then I just went, well, immigration is really big in the news. And one of the things that they refuse to cover in the immigration crisis is how we've completely destabilized Honduras to force all. Why are people coming here in droves? Because we keep destabilizing and crushing countries. Yes. So as a fan of history, I then just put in CIA coup, a US coup. And then I thought, let's pick a South American country. And I thought, well, my name starts with a G, so let's do Guatemala. And sure enough, there's a Guatemalan coup from 1954, Lee, this was the CIA really in it. Those are the golden years of couing for them. 53 and 54, they had Iran, they had Mossadegh, and now they went to
oh man, they were a regular Dove family back then, just cooing all the way to the bank.
They were just so and I like finding, and a lot of people go, Graham, stop using Wikipedia for these. Well, here's why I like using Wikipedia. Not because it's like the most trusted name in news or anything like that, but because I'm like, if Wikipedia is showing all of this, it shows you that these government secrets that we do on this show are readily available for just research.
Right. It's Wikipedia has increasingly become kind of like the neoliberal history of the world. But if we can look to Wikipedia and say, look, even in their view of the world, we created a coup in Honduras and destroyed their society, then it's like we don't have to sit here and go, okay, everybody, if to find out about this coup, you got to go to blogspot.clownpenis.honduras.holyshit.go. And then you will learn the truth about Honduras.
Right. It's like, and the fact is, so you'll learn the truth about Honduras, you learn the truth about Guatemala. And then of course it's the question that you and I bring up on our respective shows on a daily basis, which is, so if this is this easy to find literally by having my cat walk across, I don't own a cat, but if I did walk across my keyboard and find Guatemalan coup, why can't the mainstream corporate media go more into this history? Why isn't every time they talk about the immigration crisis, they deliberately do not talk about any of America's sanctions or history of sanctions and coups and wars that create these situations? Like,
I think that's one of the most important points. And it was amazing. What was it, like 2 weeks ago, where AOC put out one of these Instagram videos where it's like up her nose. And I don't know why people always, not just with her, it's like everybody wants to do the video where you got the phone up your nose. And she did one of those videos where she goes, listen, in order to understand immigration, we have to understand American imperialism. We have to understand what we've done to Latin America or something like that. And I'm like, damn straight. And yet you won't speak out about Venezuela or like Bolivia or Ecuador. It's like, how can you fucking make that video? And then when someone asks you point blank about what we're doing to Venezuela, you go, I have to read about that or something. I'm studying it. It's like, it's almost more infuriating to hear someone say that than to hear like a Ted Cruz be like, we send them candy and roses all day long. That's all we ever do. I mean, it's like, it's more infuriating to hear her say, you got to think about American imperialism and what we've done to Latin America, and then not stand up for Venezuela or all these other countries.
That's her biggest crime. Like, is like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and them, they're just maggot-ridden pieces of shit, and they make that obvious every day. They're my enemy. They've never done anything for me. They don't care about me. They've made that clear. AOC's worse because she says, oh, I'm going to fight. Let's talk about American imperialism. And oh, she's so honest and using, but then it's a deliberate scam because in this Instagram or when she's on Twitch and she's so young, millennial, in touch with the people, she deliberately won't bring up that Juan Guaido is a fucking CIA puppet. Like, I'm just sick of it. Don't bring this thing up and then talk about half of it. Like, I'm sick of it. Immigration crisis. Look, what's happening at the border is bad, but people were ripping babies out of arms with Trump. I did a video showing all of the egregious shit that happened while Obama was the president because he built these guys. Like, I'm so tired of her, man. She's such a waste. And especially when you can go in my back catalog, your back catalog, and all of the videos that we talked about, Jimmy, everybody saying, man, AOC, this is the future. This could be some real change, man. What maybe? And shut it. Take your Twitch page and eat it. I don't want to listen to your bullshit, half gaslighting nonsense anymore. You fake working class person, rich kid. Shut up. Anyway.
Well said.
Thank you so much. Everybody have an Arnold Palmer.
I'm glad we got that off your chest.
Let's go to the 1954 Guatemalan coup d'etat, ladies and gentlemen, codenamed Operation PBSuccess. You know how I love an operation, Lee. You know how I love an operation.
You do.
It was a covert operation carried out by the the CIA. And here's the thing that's going to be so great about this one. This is why I love doing an Operation Bingo is some of our old favorites are going to come. You're going to hear some of our old favorites, Lee.
But I feel like this is the worst job they've done naming this one. You know, this isn't Operation Monkey Paw or something. This one, PBSuccess, is really boring. They need to have better names for them.
I know, and they capitalize the S in success, so it looks like PBSuccess. So it's like public broadcasting.
PBS Success.
Just sunny day having a coup is a.
But I mean, Sesame Street was very big back then. So
yeah, Sesame Street was very big back then. All right. It was deposed, and it's going to be classic CIA, deposed democratically elected Guatemalan president Jacobo Árbenz, and ended the Guatemalan Revolution. So people wanted freedom, so they ended it. No freedom for you. And it installed a military dictatorship of Carlos Castillo Amas, the first in a series of U.S.-backed authoritarian rulers in Guatemala. So we've been backing awful people since 1954.
Before that as well, but
yes,
right now we've gone back to 1954. Yeah.
But so this was done under Dwight D. Eisenhower, and who was our Secretary of State that was a big advocate for this coup d'etat? Do you want to guess, Lee Camp?
Is the name Dulles involved?
Oh my God, how did you know? How did you know that every time something horrible happens, that guy's name pops up and he gets an airport named after him? Huh. It's really fantastic. It's always the same names. It's CIA, it's Dulles, it's all these awful, awful people. But the Guatemalan Revolution began in 1944 after a popular uprising toppled the military dictatorship of Jorge Ubinco. Juan Jose Arevalo, I'm so sorry I'm butchering these names, was elected president in Guatemala's first democratic election. Sounds just like we did Mossadegh. Same playbook.
Yep.
He introduced a minimum wage and near universal suffrage.
No, you can't. You really can't do that. I mean, you can't just run around giving people a minimum wage and expect to not be killed or dethroned.
I know. If you're going to help out working class people, you better expect one between the eyes. I mean, how dare you?
Yeah, you better have a bulletproof cup on if you're gonna play that game.
The only way, honestly, especially doing our shows and this show, if you really want to do benevolent things, the only way to do it is like subversively, or you have to be a little bit like the League of Shadows. And like, you have to come in like, I'm going to do these nice things and I'm going to wipe out the ruling elites. Like, you got to be like kind of ruthless with them, like a samurai. Like, I'm chopping off the heads of the ruling elites and then everybody gets healthcare. Like, I think that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, either you trick them into healthcare when they're not looking,
right,
or you just go all out. Yeah,
yeah. I think you have to just round up the ruling elites and put their feet over coals.
I was going to say, be careful what you say here, because I don't know if they can demonetize your demonetized channel, but they'll find a way.
I'm just saying, I don't support that idea. I just think that would be a fun movie script. That's all I'm talking about. So he introduced minimum wage and he turned Guatemala into a democracy. How dare you? How dare you do that? And America, right?
I mean, we can all agree that it's a bit cunty of him. Okay. We can agree on that.
I think that's probably what Dulles said to Eisenhower. And it doesn't sound weird or hypocritical at all that America is supposedly the seat of democracy, then goes to depose someone who's in charge of the first democracy after a military dictatorship. That doesn't seem odd to you, does it, Lee? Or,
I mean, I'm sure it was an accident. It was probably a duffel bag situation again. Probably one of the duffel bags again had teddy bears. The other one had a U.S.-backed coup in it, and they just got them mixed up.
No, not the coup bag, the democracy bag. You did it again, Philly fanatic. He was in charge of this coup too. Oh, he was, so after this guy put in democracy, oh my God, he was then succeeded by Árbenz in 1951, who instituted land reforms, which granted property to landless peasants. Ooh, that's another crime. That's a big bullseye painter right there.
I mean, if you do anything that causes a peasant to go, I kind of like this guy, then you're fucked. You're in trouble, because the U.S. will not put up with that.
It's not just the U.S. I mean, look what they did to Jesus. He came down and was like, let's help the less fortunate. They nailed that guy to wood. I mean, every time somebody like that shows up in history, it's like, ugh, like.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you show, especially if you're living the way that, you know, of the poor. If you're not rolling around in a Benz, then and you're saying, I think the peasants should be treated better, then you're really in trouble.
You're really in trouble. And if you're rich and privileged and you say that, oh man, are they going to come for you hard? I mean, just ask the Kennedys. So the
ones that are left.
The Guatemalan Revolution was disliked by the United States federal government, which was predisposed during the Cold War to see it as communist. Oh, so it's that old. Oh, they're red. Go get them.
Yep.
No, they have a democracy and they're helping the peasants. Well, that sounds like communism to me. Wait,
I love how Eisenhower gave a speech when he left about the military-industrial complex and how dangerous it was. Yet he also was like, "Yeah, go ahead and coup Honduras. That's cool."
Yeah. It's like a retiring UFC fighter saying the head trauma in the cages is really not good.
Saying, I think what we're doing is harmful for children to be watching this.
Yeah.
But I'm retiring. I'll see you later.
Good luck, everybody. Pay-per-view next weekend. It's just like, the perception grew. Gee, I wonder how it grew. How did they grow the communist perception? I'm sure there wasn't propaganda or nothing. When he was elected, Árbenz, and formally legalized the Communist Guatemalan Party of Labor. So again, just the Labor Party, but evil communism. The United Fruit Company. Oh, come on now. Now we're getting into Smedley Butler's reign.
Yeah, we may need to do a whole segment on the United Fruit Company.
Yeah. Whose highly profitable business had been affected by the end to exploitative labor practices in Guatemala, engaged in an influential lobbying campaign to persuade the U.S. to overthrow the. So again,
right. So go ahead.
The United States military ultimately taking its orders from a corporation that just didn't want to spend more money on labor or give up land to the people.
Yeah, I mean, so to clarify some of what they're saying there is the United Fruit Company was connected to the oligarchy in Guatemala, and in some of those other countries as well. And these people had gotten incredibly rich by producing and selling this fruit, initially probably with slave labor, then became, very, very poor laborers. They get immensely rich. That allows them to basically control our government and our government to control other governments. And so when any one of these countries would stand up for themselves and throw out the entrenched oligarchy and say, hey, we want to give this land that is owned by, quote unquote, owned by the United Fruit Company oligarchs, we want to give some or all of that back to the people. These, fruit companies or sometimes other companies would, go to the U.S. government and say, this is unacceptable. They're kicking us off our fruit lands where our slaves are busy picking our bananas. And then the, U.S. would send the CIA down to make sure things got back to copacetic.
Yep, that's what they do. That's what they do. So, let me go back to this now. The Guatemalan government, so the U.S. President Harry Truman authorized Operation PB Fortune to topple Árbenz in 1952. Although the operation was quickly aborted, it was a precursor to PBSuccess. So Truman, so they've been trying to get the Guatemala for a while, right?
Again, hilarious that it's Truman, because Truman then writes the op-ed about how dangerous the CIA is.
Yes. Later. Again, Truman, and then so Eisenhower becomes president in 52, and again keeps doing awful shit. And both of those guys at the end, when they're leaving the White House, like, hey, there's some bad stuff brewing. I know I did a lot of it, but not my problem anymore. So
yeah, right.
exactly what they did. So Eisenhower, one of the ways he got elected was he was going to be, I'm going to go tough on communism, right? We've heard that before. Tough on communism, tough on crime, tough on terror. It's always a tough on whatever bad guy du jour is, to justify more war and corporate profits. Just that's how it works. Then his staff members, Dulles, of course, and Alan Dulles, the Dulles boys. God, they did good work.
The Dulles brothers. God, what did their parents do to them? They must have been like forced enemas all day, every day.
God, like, why couldn't they be like the Coen brothers and just make cool movies? Why do they just have
or the Wachowski brothers? Now the Wachowski sisters. Why couldn't they be like them and just make great movies?
Well, the first Matrix is good. The second one, I don't know. There's that rave at the bottom. It's like Battlestar Galactica rave. I don't know what happened there, but the first Matrix, I'll give them that.
No, it's true. They, I mean, it's the classic tale. You put out a great movie and then you're like, let's have an interracial sex orgy in the next one. And I'm all for those types of orgies, but I don't know that they need to be made into a movie. You could just go do them.
On a side note, Lee, is the second Matrix movie as bad as the Dulles brothers and what they did to Guatemala?
No, but the third is.
Yeah. Third is basically the Guatemalan coup of movies. I mean, let's just call it that. The Dulles boys, they get into their typical shenanigans. And the U.S. federal government drew exaggerated conclusions about the extent of communist influence. Weird.
What?
I know. Like, maybe they just drank too much coffee that day when they wrote the report. They're like, there's so much communism. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have had all that coffee. I don't know. Is it that they just grabbed the wrong duffel bag of reports and this one has too many communism?
They grabbed the wrong duffel bag of things they were snorting. They thought it was fun mix or something, and they thought it was Pixie Sticks, and it turns out it was straight up Coke.
So really, so much of America's imperialism is just wacky mix-ups, like an episode of Three's Company or something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh, I thought Pixie Sticks. Oh, those aren't Pixie Sticks. That's my cocaine. What? You told me too late. Now we got to say communism is everywhere. Once again. So Eisenhower authorized the CIA to carry out Operation PBSuccess in August of 1953. The CIA armed, funded, and trained. Again, they got the same playbook, the CIA guys. Turned a force of 480 men led by Carlos Castillo Armas. The coup was preceded by U.S. efforts to criticize and isolate Guatemala internationally. Wow, that doesn't sound like what's happening in Venezuela or Honduras at all, right?
No, sounds completely different.
No, yeah, it is completely different. Thank God the corporate media doesn't keep bringing this up, showing how awful these coups are, that they just keep this quiet. And the only way to find out about this is to have a cat walk across your keyboard and find a Wikipedia page.
The only way to find out about this is to listen to a podcast by two dick brain comedians who decided to reveal it to the world.
Two comics who got into comedy probably just to get drunk and get laid, and now are forced to carry the weight of truth on their shoulder because they can't get jobs in show business.
Guys, we just wanted to get drunk and get laid, and here we are, fucking the last bastion of the true history of America.
I just wanted to travel around, have pretty girlfriends, go surfing. And what the fuck now? I got to talk about the Dulles boys' fucking reign of terror. Jesus. Anyway, so this include one of the, I love getting into these government secrets. This is the thing. We've learned this from this show. The CIA's, some of their tactics are so bizarre and insane.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So this is what they did in Guatemala. They had a radio station which broadcast anti-government propaganda and a version of military events favorable to the rebellion. So they just put out fake news.
Like they're doing now.
Yes, like they're doing now, claiming to be genuine news, as well as air bombings of Guatemalan City and a naval blockade. The invasion force fared poorly military and most of its offensives were defeated. However, psychological warfare and the fear of a U.S. invasion intimidated the Guatemalan army, which eventually refused to fight. So we're not bullies at all. And they tried to arm the civilians, and that failed. Because people were just terrified. Before resigning on 27th of June, Castillo Armas became president 10 days later following negotiations in San Salvador.
Yay!
We did it, America!
And everyone was happy, and we brought democracy and freedom to the world.
Isn't it like if we would have just left everyone alone, how much better would the world be? We could be doing a show right now talking about, boy, we let democracy flourish in Guatemala, and that's why Central and South America economically are doing great. The people are doing great. We have open borders with Mexico because economically, Mexico and Central and South, Mexico and Central and South American countries have been doing so well the last 7 decades that there is no need for people to come to America, and Americans all have free healthcare thanks to Kennedy. And we stopped going in all these ridiculous wars. We have just a thin little military that mainly is used for humanitarian efforts, and everyone, the most highly educated populace, because we have free education, and we're actually, America has, we reversed climate change back in the 90s. After Dukakis was president. And then, it's been,
maybe that should be our whole next episode, is the fantasy history of the United States.
We should. There's a great book out there actually called What If?
Oh, really?
Which is, if you're a history buff, you'll love this book. And it goes to key moments, and says where they find these moments in history where, like, had this storm not happened, the other army would have won, and this would have ended Christianity, or something like that. Like it says, there's a thing in there, like the weather during Valley Forge or something like that. Like we could have lost to the Brits, or all these. It's
the weather that took out the Spanish Armada that was headed for England. Yeah.
Yep. There's a lot of or some disease, like everybody got this disease and they got wiped out or whatever, and then a bunch of historians wrote it. So they go, and because of what actually happened led to this, and this. So if it would have gone the other way, it would have actually led to, it's a fascinating thing. And we should do an episode, the What If Government Secrets episode, of all these things.
Right. What if they dropped the right duffel bag on the MOVE building? If the teddy bears had rained down, there would have been understanding and peace within the city of Philadelphia. Yeah, would have been very different.
Yep, it would have been very different. So that's my Guatemalan government secret segment. Beep, beep, beep. This episode went a little long, I know, but hey.
Thanks for being with us, everybody. My stuff, well, first of all, go back and listen to all the previous episodes if you haven't already, because, with the exception of the opening 10 minutes, they're all pretty much evergreens, so you will enjoy all of them. And I have another podcast called Uncensored with Eleanor Goldfield. I also have a TV show called Redacted Tonight, and it's all at leecamp.com.
And hit the like button, everybody. Right now, hit the like button if you're a fan of one of us, but don't subscribe to the other guy's channel.
I thought you were going to say a fan of one of us, but not the other.
But you hate the other guy. I don't know how you listen to this show every week. That's good luck. I don't want to know which one you like or hate. But no, like, follow both. If you follow one of us, then follow the other guy, because it helps both of our analytics. And of course, I do a show, Political Vigilante, which live streams on StalinTube that has demonetized me, and on Rockfin. We're both at rockfin.com. So if you sign up for Rockfin, you get my premium content. Lee's, Abby Martin just joined, Whitney Webb is on there, Jimmy Dore, Ron Placone, Status Coup, a bunch of other great channels. So you get a lot of great content, and it's blockchain and it's cryptocurrency. So
and weirdly, one of the Olsen twins is on there, I think.
We're trying to get the Dulles Brothers podcast, but I don't know, it's pretty tied up right now. So yeah, and I'm at Graham Elwood and grahamelwood.com. I got merchandise and all that stuff. So check that out. So that's Government Secrets. And if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, give it a 5-star review, share it, likes, all those free little clicky analytical things help the show get it out there. So spread the word.
Thanks, man. This was a good one.
All right, buddy. We'll see you next week.
See you next.
Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Government Secrets with Lee Camp and Graham Elwood. Beep, beep, beep. Episode 38. Bombings and coups. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at grahamelwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.